Happy holidays! This is Clara from Creations by Klare. In this video, I'm going to do a couple more gingerbread themed projects for Christmas decor. I hope you enjoy. This is one of my favorite little trucks. A little red truck. You see them almost everywhere. They're always all red. This one's not going to be red. So stay tuned and you'll see what I'm going to do. Little ceramic truck I picked up from Michael's just a few weeks ago. I fell in love with it. Love at first sight. This little wooden camper, I picked it up on clearance last year. So I removed the stickers and cleaned with glue for the sticky residue. And I'm going to remove this rope hanger from the camper. I'm not sure what the purpose for. Maybe it's to hang from a very large tree, for hanging in a very large tree. So I'll remove that with the needles nose pliers side. I'm painting the camper with the color Snow White chalk paint by Waverly. After the first coat of chalk paint, I'm going to lightly sand the camper on the spots I can reach. I think it was a 100 grit sanding paper. Or just use what you got, just lightly sand it. I don't want to take the wood off, just want to remove the raised wood hairs from the wood after using water-based chalk paint. But these little camper had a little nooks and crannies, so I had to get into some areas with the paintbrush. After the wood was dry, or the paint job was dry, I gave it sanding with this finger sander and just try to sand in just one direction, just to, in case it does leave any line marks with the sanding. But after the sanding, I wiped off the dust and gave it another coat of chalk. So here's the fun part. I'm going to paint the camper in Sable brown Americana acrylic paint. The entire camper will be in this sable brown. I'm using this brush. It's about a ½ inch wide, and I'm trying to paint. At first, when you put the paint, you gotta go different directions, but then I try to come back a second time before it dries and smooth it out into one, following the grain of the wood, and just follow one direction with the brush. This will require another coat of paint, so after the paint dries in a couple of hours, you can go back and give it the second coat of sable brown. After this first coat of paint dries, it's a good idea to come back and give it another light sanding because the wood will raise again. So just give it another light coat all over and try to do the sanding in one direction or in the direction of the wood. Here I'm taking a smaller brush, about an 1/8 inch wide, and getting in the details of the windows in the windows of the door. So I've sanded the camper I gave it a light sanding following the direction of the wood, and now it's time for the second coat. Now I'm going to make air dry clay castings with this Amazon mold. I'm going to use this bubble rope, and I picked that because it sort of reminded me of bubble lights. So that's kind of what I was going for, that to give that impression of bubble lights. And you'll see what I do uh, when after I apply the ropes into the camper. But you want to brush on some cornstarch so that the clay can release easily out of the mold. You don't have to do it every time. You still have residue, about two or three times. And I painting the clay castings with Snow White chalk paint, and I'm trying to do this right away after I've made the molds, and that's because it'll get hard. The clay will get hard, maybe, I don't know, 45 to an hour. They'll get hard, and this camper is, as you can see, it's rounded, it has rounded areas, so I want to be able to shape it and glue it on before it gets hard. And I did make two little birds from another mold that I picked up or ordered from Amazon. But first I'm going to do the cuts for all the ropes before gluing, and just decide as I'm making the cuts what's how it's what design is going to be glued on. As I make the cut with this oval tool, it kind of flattens out the end of the clay. So if you see me there, every time after I make the cut, I, with my fingers, I just kind of blend it, make it into shape, since you very easily can. The clay's not hardened yet. So here I'm just kind of following the curves of the camper around the wheel to just kind of emphasize that areas around all the curves. So now I'm ready to glue the ropes to the front. I'm using Gorilla wood glue. I chose Gorilla wood glue since it's made for wood, and this is clay, and it adheres very well. And just use a little popsicle stick or brush to spread out the glue. Though around the curve of the wheel, decided just to apply to the wood directly. In some of the areas where you, right there on the very top where I added this piece, there's going to be some areas where the clay is not going to meet end to end. So I applied a little tiny bit of clay later on in the video, and just painted over with a little white chalk paint. But that's how you can fill in those cracks, or you can use the paint, just use the chalk paint just to paint inside the cracks, depending how wide it is. And or some of the puffy paint, you can apply puffy paint too, since it's white. You can't really tell the where it ends and where it meets. Now here's the back side of the camper, or back of the other side of the camper. I'm going to the similar to the way I did the front, just around the edges with the clay castings. Now with the white marker, this is called a Posca paint marker. Drawing in the designs. You see this little swirls or these curves a lot on gingerbread cookies, gingerbread men. So that's why I drew this around some of the edges. Drawing a little window on the side of the other side of the front of the camper. Little dots, simple little dots. And I will do the drawings first with the Posca pen, and then once I'm done, I'm going to use the Puffy paint, Tulip Puffy paint, and follow the lines that I drew in. And now I'm going to outline with the Puffy paint the lines that I drew in with the Posca pen. You do got to be careful and not put your finger on this wet paint. And one thing I will recommend if it's your first time using Puffy paint is just kind of practice making and squeezing the paint, because if you do press too hard, you'll have a big glob come out on your design. And I do that from time to time. I get kind of happy and crazy and want to paint it all. It's for some reason it's fun doing these outlines with the Puffy paint. I don't know. Everybody's different, but yeah, just kind of learn how much to press before the paint is squeezed out. You'll get the hang of it. So following the outlines in the front of the camper, or the main part of the camper, following the swirls and around the windows or the vent of the camper. And this is supposed to be a snowflake on the tire. So for the top of the camper, I'm using a hot glue gun, and I'm using it at the high temperature. I heard that from a YouTuber to do this. It's used a high temperature for when you're doing this design. So I did it in little increments. I started with the top and pulled the little strings that the hot glue tends to make, and then just follow the curve of the camper. And it sets up and it gets hard within 30 minutes, 20 minutes. So I still have a few of these wreaths and Christmas trees that I had ordered from another project. And now I'm gluing these. These are going to be cardinals. And I'm going to come back later and paint his beak black and his feet black also. Now I'm going to apply this red and green. It's two different brands, but this is the dots that hopefully to you, and for me it did, represent lights on following the sides of the top and sides of the camper. It's a red puffy paint. So it's supposed to represent lights, or it could be like little greenery to some. I thought it was kind of cute. Now here I'm adding some what's supposed to be some little greenery and little red berries at the top of the window. And around the top, the the bubble castings, putting the red and green lights. And around the front of the hookup for the camper, continue the lights. Now I'm painting the top of the camper with Sable Brown right over the hot glue waves. And after it dries, I'm going to apply glitter. With the Snow White chalk paint, I'm painting the in between the air dried clay cracks where I could see the brown, and I'm taking a fine thin paintbrush and also painting over the spots where I put a little bit more. Where the cracks were larger, I applied little pieces of clay or glued on pieces of clay. So now I'm applying Mod Podge to the top of the camper, and I'm going to be applying or sprinkling glitter. Here's Enzo. We've had him 10, 11 years now. He's a good. And here's, I'm just completing the remainder of the Mod Podge in glitter. And also on I guess where you hook up the camper to your vehicle. Just a little bit of glitter. Lastly, painting an eye and painting the bird's beak. And here's the start of our project number 2, our little vintage truck, little gingerbread truck. So here I want to do a compare. I painted right under the truck, I painted with just straight acrylic. And then on the bumper, I painted chalk paint, then a coat of acrylic. And you could see the comparison that the chalk paint and acrylic was a lot more solid color. So that's the option I went with. I painted all of the truck with the first coat of snow white chalk paint. And then the acrylic sable brown will follow. Now I'm going to make little rails, or yeah, probably call it rails for the little truck with popsicle sticks. So I'm measuring the how wide I want it and how tall. And I do plan to put a little styrofoam inside and to kind of prop it up. So I'm using a pair of scissors there to cut the popsicle sticks. I do need to get a little tool, but I'm not sure what it's called. If anybody knows what it's called, if you can put it in the comments instead of using my pair of scissors to cut wood. So here I'm just gluing the second one using the first one as a guide, because I almost glued the little rails to the paper I had underneath. So I decided to move it into a rubber surface so it will not glue as easy if I do get it on there. So it just took about 15-20 minutes for it to glue together. So now I will paint the entire truck except the inside in sable brown acrylic paint. Even though the paint has the underneath it a white chalk paint, it still required a second coat. So after this first coat dries completely, I will paint it, give it another coat of sable brown. I decided to make more bubble castings, air dry castings, and add it to the truck so that it could kind of coordinate or tie in with the camper. So these are fresh ones, fresh castings I just made, and they're painted with chalk paint. And I glued them on with E6000, and I'm taping the clay so that it wouldn't slide before it sets and gets hardened. And I find just gently pressing it with this silicone tool or all around, it kind of, it'll just gently, it'll helps press a little better onto the ceramic. So now I'm ready to start the designs on the truck using this Posca white pen or marker, and drawing in the spokes of the wheels or the indentations of probably back then they probably would have used aluminum maybe or steel coverings. The Christmas tree. I've debated if I should put a sign on the truck saying farm fresh trees. So just this one out. I'm just going to just leave with the indentation that the ceramic truck came with this shape of this Christmas tree rather than writing farm fresh. Either way, I think it would have looked really nice. So some snowflakes on the sides of the truck, some outline the back rear lights, and then just repeat the same that I did on the other side to the truck, and then outline the grill. I do have lots of fun outlining. I don't know why. Or drawing designs. Just painting the bottom of the truck. I almost forgot. And now with the Tulip puff paint to outline the Posca markings. And again, you want to do a little practice on something else to learn how to squeeze and how much to squeeze the paint out. Because if you hold it too hard, you'll get a larger squirt of paint than you bargained for. I've done that a couple times, and I wipe it off and then just repaint. So now I'm putting red and green dots on the clay of design of the truck to help it look like lights, like Christmas lights, and also to tie in to the camper. For the sake of time on this video, I know it's pretty long, and I appreciate it if you're still in here with me. I'm going to place in some Gingerbread Boys inside the back of the truck and a Christmas tree. Okay, project number 3. These are wooden ornaments. This is actually from a paint set of like 24 wooden ornaments. This is the first time I'm painting them, and I thought, okay, let's try to do it on the gingerbread theme. I painted a reindeer in a previous, and here's another reindeer. Snowman I have painted, but he's going to be gingerbread theme. You'll see. And just hang on. I hope you like it. So now that the chalk paint is dried, I'm going to give them 2 coats of Sable brown acrylic paint. Here I'm just touching up the white of this fur and the scarf in the midst where the brown overlapped. And now with the Posca pen, I'm outlining the reindeer and the snowman. I saw this on Pinterest. It was somebody made cookies of a reindeer. So I just kind of borrowed the design, some of the designs off the cookie, and putting it on this wooden reindeer. Now with this napkin, I think I ordered it from Napkin World. Taking off the second ply, using a quarter of the square, I'm going to apply decoupage to the back of the reindeer and snowman. So I'll be using Mod Podge, or you can use any other form of glue to apply the napkin. So just one coat, and not so much, not a heavy coat, light coat of Mod Podge, and applying it down with my fingers. And I probably should have been using a plastic because I did tear it when I was doing the snowman with my fingers. I tore it. So now I'm applying the second coat on top, and I will let them dry completely. Yeah, I waited overnight, let them dry completely, and then with the finger sander, I will remove the excess. So here the next day, I sanded off with this finger sander the excess, and just think maybe I did use too much glue, too much Mod Podge, because it was not coming off too easily, but it did after I sanded it well. And the little spots where it was just too big for this finger sander, I cut off a piece of sandpaper and rolled it up like a little straw, and well, it's really not a straw, just folded it and just was able to get to the little edges, especially this reindeer on his antlers. It was too big for the finger sander, and it worked very well. I decided to use this little tinsel or pipe cleaner to insert it into the holes. Red for the snowman, silver for the reindeer, and made it into the shape of a little bowl on top. Now painting the snowman's little eyes, his black coal eyes, and for the reindeer, the same. And look what I did. I smudged it, touched it before it dried. No problem. I'm going to fix it with my another coat of little sable paint, sable brown. Now I'm applying the glitter. I was surprised I found this bottle of glitter for $1.25 at the dollar store, which super happy instead of paying $5 or $6 at the craft store. So I'll just outline the areas where I drew with the Poshka paint and also the snowman's fur on his cap and his scarf. So at the edges of the where I sanded it looked some parts were a little white, so I applied this metallic gold, brushed it on. I don't know, I almost put antique brown on there, but I went with the gold. So to finish off these ornaments, I'm taking them outside and spraying Rust-Oleum matte spray, and the projects will be done. Stay tuned for the reveal.